Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another 1930s film. And this is a major movie. I actually can't believe it took me this long to see it. It's one I've been wanting to see for a long time. It is a major film. And that is M, directed by Fritz Lang and starring Peter Lorre, 1931. Yeah, it's a major film. It has a rare 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. It's known as the first major psychological thriller, setting the stage for psychological thrillers for years to come, especially when it comes to the serial killer movie, whether it be real or not. I think some people might think that this is somewhat based on Albert Fish, but this actually came out before Albert Fish was caught. And I've known about this film for a while, like at least high school, because I had this. And during the Albert Fish episode, there are clips and talks about this film. And so I've always known about it. Never actually seen a physical copy. I've never been able to buy it, but it's on YouTube. And it's something that's always been in the back of my mind. I've always wanted to check out. Now, it is a German film. Some people do consider it part of the German Expressionist movement, which I kind of don't see. It looks like a regular movie, but there is no music, so there are scenes that just really builds tension, like no music. Could have been because it was 1931 and like Dracula and Frankenstein didn't have any music either, or they're trying to build some raw tension. So yeah, this was the first time I've ever seen it, and I was blown away. I mean, while I'm watching it, like Peter Lorre is the star, but he doesn't come in until around halfway through, maybe more than halfway through. It's an hour 49 minutes, and Peter Lorre is young in this. Like, this might be one of his first movies. He was 27, and he does a powerhouse performance. I mean, well, for those that don't know, it is the story about a child murderer, a predator of young girls, and how it holds this German town in terror. I mean, it got to the point where no one can trust anyone in public. The law enforcement doesn't know what to do. The criminal underworld is trying to take over because they're pissed that they can't conduct their business, so they're going to go do some frontier justice. And, just Peter Lorre, he has that look. He has an unusual look. And just certain things he does with his face, like how his eyes just bug out of his head. It also stars Otto Warnick and Gustav Grungens. I'm guessing is how you pronounce that. Oh, okay. He was the lead. He was like the lead criminal guy that was going after people. Kangaroo Court, I guess it's called. But yeah, I definitely, watching this now after how many serial killer films I've seen, whether it be real life serial killers or like fictional film like Silence of the Lambs or Seven, you can definitely see the influence. I mean, this was a fantastic movie. Every performance, I don't know why, but like when I see a foreign film, I feel like the acting it's either over the top or it's very captivating. And yeah, there were subtitles, and Peter Lorre stole this fucking movie. it does have a bit of an abrupt ending. The only thing I'd seen of this prior was the opening, because that's what's in that serial killer documentary. It opens up with these kids, like, just out in the city. They're playing jump rope. They're, you know, playing pass with each other. And there's this girl this little girl. She's bouncing a ball. And she walks up to, like, this, like how cities have, like, those bulletin boards. There's one with an article saying, like, 10,000 marks. I don't know what that translates to dollars, but reward for a child murderer. And we see a shadow of a man with a fedora talking to this girl, like, hey, that's a nice ball, do you want a balloon? And he buys her a balloon from this blind balloon salesman, and we get this long scene of, kids come home to this, like, apartment building, and the mother is asking them, hey, is she with you? And they're like, no. Some time passes, and she's asking other people, is she outside? They're like, no. And she's screaming out the window. And this is a strong, well done scene. She's screaming out the window into the courtyard her daughter's name, and then dead silence, and we're now assumingly out in the country. It's an up close shot on the ground of a bush. And from behind the bush, the ball just rolls out. Then we look up at the power lines, and there's the balloon. And just, it doesn't show any violence. It's all implied. It's stylized. Like, you don't know what... she's dead, but you don't know what she's done to her. But the way it's all played out, I thought was very well done, very powerful. Very strong. And from there, that's where everything starts cracking down. Like, we get a really long scene in this sort of speakeasy brothel where, law enforcement's, busting everyone in there, and they're all giving them shit about finding this killer. You get very long dialogue scenes, but they're all well done. More dialogue scenes of, there's like this criminal underground gang who are talking about how they can't conduct their business. They have to be extra careful now. Like, they can't do robberies and check their loot in any hotels or anywhere else because cops are all over the place. So they take it upon themselves. And I also like, once that's all been established, we then get this scene that is sort of like the aftermath and like what life is like now. Because we get the same aerial shot of the city where the kids were playing, and now all the kids are just standing there, silent. There's like a guy with like a music box. He's playing, but all the kids are like standing away from him. These kids are like running up to like this window of the store looking at something, and the mothers like run up and like grab their kids away because there's a guy sitting there. This one guy has like his arm around this little girl walking down the street, and every time he walks by someone, they're all like looking at him, and you see like people forming behind him. And then he kisses her goodbye. She goes into a school, so it's like his daughter. Just, it really shows the panic and the, I guess, how panic can cause, I don't want to say ignorance, but it can. I mean, I actually can't believe I'm talking about a 1931 psychological thriller from Germany, and I'm going to make a Men in Black reference, but a person is smart, people are dumb. I don't know if that's the thing to take away from this movie, but that's one of the things that I saw, like, people are fucking stupid. You get any, yeah, I do understand it's, children are being killed, but, it does kind of show how society will crumble if they try to work together. And for a while, I always thought it was called M, M for murder, which I even think there is a movie called Dial M for Murder. It's because the killer, played by Peter Lorre, he's always whistling to himself. And if I'm not mistaken, he's whistling In the Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg, which has been in hundreds of things. Guarantee you've heard it. You know that just keeps building up. He walks up to this other girl, and he's whistling it, and the blind blue man hears it, recognizes it. He gets someone's attention, and he sees that he's cutting an orange in front of the girl with a switchblade. So he takes he takes chalk and writes M on his palm, and he kind of walks up to him and hits him on the back, and he's like, "Oh, hey, sorry." So he has M on his jacket, and there is another shot that was on some of the posters. I don't know if I can find it, probably not. Oh yeah. I actually think that this is the Criterion cover, but he sees it in a window, and then that's when you get the whole third act. And the third act is really, what made the movie for me. He runs to this one building that, it's like a bank, offices, and like attic and storage. And he hides up in there, and the gang finds out about it, and they all go there, and it's kind of a long scene. It's, it's most of that act is them in that building trying to find him. And even throughout most, like the first half of Peter Lorre's performance, he doesn't really have dialogue, other than when he's talking to like the young girls. It's mostly just, facial expressions, reactions, and even that he does very well, like when he's hiding in the storage units and his eyes are just popping out of his head. I don't want to give away the whole film, but, eventually he does get caught and he gets brought to, I believe it's the same brothel / speakeasy that we were at before. And there's this whole, like, frontier kind of court hearing. And I think it sort of has the same kind of juxtaposition as what you see in, like, a Wes Craven film. Like when you have this monstrous threat and people are scared, but then when they get the upper hand, they can become just as animalistic as the threat. Kind of like Last House on the Left, more so like Hills Have Eyes, because you now have a room of people, just screaming in different ways, like kill him, obliterate him, annihilate the monster, execute the pig or something. And it's all walks of life. Like you have like the mothers of the girls, you have the criminal gang, it's all townspeople basically. And this is where you get Peter Lorre's tour de force of his performance, where he's explaining to them, see, Peter Lorre, he's not a proud serial killer. He's not a Ted Bundy, or, he's not someone that likes to go out and, the thrill of the hunt and the kill and stuff. He's actually a very sick, pathetic person. Almost to the point where, like, the performance is so strong that you almost sympathize with him. And only the strongest of movies with the best of actors can do that. He's talking about how he hears these voices, and it's like he's being followed by himself, and he has to run away from himself, and he hears the voices of like the parents of the girls he's killed, and the only time he can make everything stop is when he's killing. And he even does this thing when he's explaining it. He's on his knees and he's like, yelling at people like this. And when he talks about how when he's actually killing, it stops. He does this thing like where his eyes like roll back in his head, and he looks kind of blissful, and then he just kind of comes out of it and he realizes where he is. And excellent performance. Like, I would say, of this era, horror or not, even though horror is really all I know from this era, I don't really know any other films, this has got to be the best performance, I think, of any actor from any film. From what I've seen from at least the 30s, definitely the 40s, he, this is an amazing, amazing performance. Peter Lorre, he was only 27 years old also. I don't know, I don't think he had much experience before that. I could be wrong though. And, they, the townspeople even address him a council. And, just when these people are about to, just charge him and, pretty much tear him apart, that's when law enforcement comes in. And even law enforcement just kind of gently puts their hand on his shoulder. Like, you just see an arm and a hand. And then it cuts to a court scene, and we just see the crying mother saying, this isn't going to bring our children back. We got to watch our children better. And then it just ends. And I was kind of wondering, kind of watching that, I was kind of thinking, because after just watching Peter Lorre just act the fuck out of that whole scene, I was just thinking, well, killing them's not really going to bring your kids back either. So, I don't know if that's the magic of the movie, that you can just have all these different feelings, but it's easy to see why this has a 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. Definitely one of the best German films I've ever seen. I mean, it's either been like fucked up movies like Necromantic, or it's been expressionist films like Nosferatu and Caligari. This might be the only like actual like movie one that it's not expressionist, it's not like fake snuff twisted shit. I mean, it's a psychological thriller, and before that you didn't really have human killers in film. I mean, I think it was 1941 was The Lodger, which was like the Jack the Ripper movie. It was either 31 or 41. I think it was 41. But, this was the age of monsters, whether they be fantastical monsters or people with some sort of deformity from literature. You didn't really have these everyday people, killing people, let alone killing children. So, this was a powerful movie when it came out. I'm actually not quite sure when the Oscars started. I don't think it was... Oh, yeah. First Oscars was in 29, so that would have been the third Oscars, but I don't think he was awarded. I'm just gonna check real quick. Third Academy Awards. Oh, that was 1930, so it's got to be fourth. Outstanding production, that was one back then. Nope, not. Oh wait, maybe it was the 5th because they always do the year before. Okay, no, he didn't win because Frederick March won for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's right. But maybe he. Nope, he didn't even get nominated, and there was two awards: Frederick March and Wallace Beery in The Champ. Maybe it was best foreign film. That wasn't a thing back then. But anyway, so yeah, M, directed by Fritz Lang, starring Peter Lorre. Fantastic movie. You know, the fact that there's no music gives it this raw, you know, feeling to it. It's got the procedural that you would see in like a Seven or Silence of the Lambs. You know, it's got realistic, like a societal breakdown, and show just how people can be animals also. Killer performance by Peter Lorre. Even though he's really only in the second half, and even that, the first half of his performance has no dialogue. That last scene of him is just one of the best I've ever seen. Excellent, excellent, excellent movie. I highly recommend it. But anyway, M was great. Thank you for watching.